On this day in 1915, 32 spectators at Celtic Park enlisted in the army after a recruitment drive at half-time led by a VC winning corporal. It might come as a surprise to know that the Irish Catholic community in Glasgow were broadly supportive of the war effort at the outset of World War I, and it would only be the government's reaction to the Easter Rising in April and May 1916 that saw a change in attitudes both in Glasgow and in Ireland. Ireland had been promised Home Rule once the war was over on its outbreak in August 1914, and this suited all concerned because it averted for the moment the very real prospect of civil war over the issue. Of the 100,000 strong National Volunteers, approximately 90,000 joined the British Army, being dispersed amongst various regiments, in contrast to the Ulster Volunteer Force, who were incorporated into the army as the 36th Ulster Division. The 10,000 or so remaining National Volunteers, who renamed themselves the Irish Volunteers and opposed the war, were very much in the minority of Irish public opinion in August 1914, as Britain went to war ostensibly to save Catholic Belgium. It was only a minority of those who carried out the Rising in 1916. More Irish Catholics than Ulster Protestants served in the British forces during the war. In Glasgow, Willie Maley may well have had even more reason to support the recruitment drive. His father had been a sergeant in the British Army and on guard duty in Dublin during the abortive Fenian Uprising of 1867 had discovered and allowed a young Fenian by the name of Pat Welsh to escape to Glasgow, where he would in 1887 be one of the main collaborators of Brother Walfrid in setting up Celtic Football Club. It was Welsh who suggested the Celtic Committee should approach Sergeant Maley's son Tom about playing for the new club, and was part of a delegation that visited the Maley home in Cathcart. Tom was out that evening, but Brother Walfrid, almost as an afterthought, told Willie he should come along too. At 46 years old in August 1914, Willie Maley was outraged when he volunteered for the army, but was turned down on account of his age. His eldest son was wounded in action. The Scottish Cup was suspended for the duration of World War I, but the Scottish League was allowed to continue, albeit with restrictions. Players were allowed a maximum of £1 per match and were not allowed to play at all if they were not gainfully employed in a full-time job during the week. Matches were only allowed to be played on Saturdays and on public holidays. On the first day of the 1915-16 football season, Celtic hosted Motherwell on the 21st of August, and a crowd of around 10,000 saw them line up Shaw, McGregor, Dodds, Young, Johnston, McMaster, McAtee, Gallagher, McCall, Cassidy, Browning. Alec McNair was missing, his wife having tragically died a few days before. The papers speculated on how fit the players would be given their need to work full-time jobs during the week, and also how much effort they would put in the circumstances. But the match finished in a routine 3-1 win for the defending champions, with goals from Joe Dodds, Patsy Gallagher and Jimmy McCall. At half-time, a recruitment drive took place, led by 19-year-old Corporal Frederick Luke VC, who had been awarded his medal for saving an artillery gun under heavy enemy fire in France in August 1914. The Daily Record reported on the 23rd of August 1915, Corporal Luke, the second VC of the war, was on a recruiting mission at Celtic Park. His bag for the Royal Artillery contained 32 smart young men. We can only wonder at the fate of those 32 young men, but Corporal Luke finished the war as Sergeant Luke, served in the RAF during World War II, and died at the ripe old age of 87 in Glasgow in 1983. Recruitment drives continued to be held at Celtic Park until conscription was introduced in 1916, and at the annual Celtic Sports held in August that year, the pitch was used to stage a reconstruction of trench warfare, complete with trenches, sandbags, barbed wire and fake bombs. The list of Celtic players, past and present, who joined the armed forces in World War I is too long to read out here, but notable names include former reserve player Willie Angus, who was severely injured rescuing his commanding officer and awarded the Victoria Cross. Former fullback Bobby Craig and Peter Johnston, centre-half that sunny August afternoon and who was called up in 1916, were both killed in action. Of the team who played against Motherwell on the 21st of August 1915, Andy McAtee and Joe Cassidy both survived their frontline service in France, Trooper Joe winning the military medal. The British government did not keep their promise to introduce Home Rule in Ireland at the end of the war, but after the events of 1916, it was too late for that anyway.